Good morning, gentlemen. As far as the Torah reading of Parshas Bahar, it speaks of something very important for this year, and that is the laws of Shemitah. The laws of Shemitah is that once every 7 years, the land is supposed to lie fallow, and it is our way that Hashem gave us to be able to recognize that there is a Shabbos. It's one every 7 days that we cease working, and once every 7 years that likewise we cease working. It's the first sabbatical, literally, that took place in which the Jewish people was supposed to not work, but to rely on Hashem that food would be nonetheless provided for many years. For 3 years in total, the crops of the 6th year should provide. And there's a second aspect of Shemitah, and that is that debts are canceled during Shemitah. As I heard a little mention before davening, if someone doesn't pay their bills before Shemitah is over, then can they be canceled? Well, what it is a loan. The Torah tells us that Shemot, you have to let all of those things loose and not collect the debts. A very famous thing. So if somebody's really underwater and he wants to borrow money from someone, so he goes to them in the 7th year, borrows money, and he knows that when the 7th year is going to end, he's not going to have to pay back any of his debts, which is a wonderful thing for the borrower, except for one thing. The lender also knows the law, and therefore, what's going to happen? Somebody comes to borrow money during the 7th year. What does he say to him? Nope, sorry, I'm not lending you any money because I'm not going to be able to collect it. So the Gemara tells us that Hillel Hazaken, the first Hillel, saw that people were not lending money. And the poor people, the people who needed to borrow money, not call them poor, people needed it for business, people who needed it for so many different things, were unable to borrow any money, and therefore he established the Pruzbol, with which a person would assign all of his debts to the Bezdin, to the court, not to collect during the time of Shemitah, and if he had property, likewise real estate, that would be attached to it, and therefore, by turning over his debts and not collecting during Shemitah, he would be allowed to collect the money afterwards. And the benefit was that people would now be able to lend money to the people who wanted to borrow money. So the Pruzbol, a very, very interesting institution that was made in order to be able to have commerce continue even during this year.